Hi, everybody. Thank you for logging in tonight. My name is Elaine Lasda-Berkman. I am the subject specialist librarian for social work, but I'm also interested in outreach and bringing, all of our great library expertise and resources to various interested people related to the university and to our libraries. So I'm really, really pleased that you find this webinar interesting enough to log in the evening, your busy lives, and so we'll get started. For those of you who are just coming in, please use the chat function to answer questions or to ask questions, and I'll try to answer them as I go along. I have muted everybody in case there are dogs barking or TVs on or phones ringing, that sort of thing, just to make it a more pleasant experience for everyone. So today we're going to talk about a couple of different sources for getting what I like to call the good stuff, the really quality information, quality research that can help you in all sorts of capacities, whether it's professional or personal, or maybe you're helping a kid with homework, I don't even know. Could be any kind of capacity like that. But there are lots of ways to get scholarly quality research and other resources that you can feel comfortable are not just some random website that you've pulled up via Google or Bing or something like that. So we're going to start with library resources available through UAlbany libraries, and then we're going to talk about, if you're a New York State resident, what you can get as a New York State resident in terms of scholarly research and other materials. And then we will look at, for those of you who are not New York State residents, other things that are sort of freebies out there on the web that are really good sources for quality, authoritative research, and also, just general information and some kind of cool stuff. And then we're going to talk about some what I call, secret weapons in terms of using Google as a search engine, some ways to create more precise searches and some tips and tricks for rather than just throwing in a keyword and seeing what comes up, a way to sort of direct that search a little bit more precisely. So does anybody have any questions? Please use the chat function if you do. I'll give it a minute here, or a couple seconds. Okay, so we'll move on. Let me get this over here. There we go. So the first thing we're going to talk about is resources provided by the University at Albany libraries. Now, as you may know, we don't provide remote access to the full constellation of databases and data sets that we pay for in the libraries, which is an unfortunate situation. But we do have some resources that you can take advantage of as interested parties in the library, as donors and alum. So one thing I would, not overlook that maybe we don't think about is you have an expert staff of librarians at your disposal with deep subject knowledge on a variety of topics. And we now have an instant message service that is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It is not always staffed by University at Albany librarians, but we work with a consortium to share the responsibility. And if they can't help you, if someone is from the consortium that is helping answer the questions, they will give you the right person at the library at the University of Albany to talk to, or to, they'll field the question and then refer it to the right person. So please make use of that. If you feel more comfortable emailing, I have a direct email address here to our email reference service, which you can feel free to email anytime, and we're happy to help solve your burning questions, as it were. So so don't forget about, that you have this body of people available to help you, even if we can't, we can't give you the databases and let you search yourself. We can answer questions and provide information. Another thing I would point out is the library website provides a number of free resources. We categorize them and vet them so that we know they're authoritative. We know that they have good quality information. I would just say look around on the library website for some pages called LibGuides, LIBGUIDES, and they have often collections of free resources as well as other resources that can be helpful. And we'll talk about ways of getting things that you can't necessarily, if you're not a current faculty or a student, there's other ways to get the information you need, and we'll talk about that in a little while. Online reference sources also available. So take a look, if you're bored someday, just kind of click around the library website, see what we have to offer that you can access just as a regular visitor from the World Wide Web. You might be surprised at the depth of information that's available there. Does anybody have any questions so far? Okay, and if I'm going too fast, somebody, speak up or, chat up, I guess would be the right verb. So you probably know that as an alumnus or as a donor, you can obtain what's known as courtesy borrower status at the University at Albany. This is the circulation stipulations for a courtesy borrower. You can come in and you can borrow books for 30 days. You can borrow up to 25. You can renew them twice, so you have them for a total of 90 days if you want. And you just, the catch is you have to come into the library. You have to be in person. You have to show your University at Albany, your old ID card or your driver's license, and then they will activate your account. Unfortunately, if you are not local, there's not a good way for us to get books to you, but we'll talk about other avenues that you have to pursue if you've identified some kind of research book or something that we might have at UAlbany, but we can't mail it to you. The other thing courtesy borrower status includes is our books and materials on reserve, which are circulating for a very small period of time. For example, a 3-hour loan or a 7-day loan, something like that. You have access to those. You also have free access to our iLearn classes. These are workshops on mostly technology, web design, technology tools, Photoshop, things like that. If you've always wanted to learn how to set up a little web page for yourself, you can learn some tools to do that through these iLearn classes. There are some other topics as well. If you're interested, email me afterwards and I can send you the web page that has the full list of classes. The other thing that you can do is we have a whole bunch of audio and video, mostly, equipment that you can borrow from our Interactive Media Center. This includes cameras, recording devices, video, microphones. Also, we have, I don't know if you guys still have floppy disks or zip disks, any of those old formats that have valuable information on them, but we have tools for accessing the files on those old formats. And you can borrow those to convert or to look at the files that you had on those old formats, those old disks. Now, Judith is asking, can out-of-state alum take iLearn classes? You sure can, but they are in-person classes. They do not tend to be webinars, so you would have to come to the library to do it. But if you were going to be in town for some reason, maybe it's alumni weekend or something like that, and you wanted to, hit up the library for a class, that would be great. We'd be glad to have you. I hope that answers your question. Does anybody else have any questions about courtesy borrower access? So the other issue, unfortunately, as a courtesy borrower, you cannot use our interlibrary loan system, and you do not have off-campus access to the library databases that that we pay for faculty, staff, and students that are current on campus. If you come to the library, of course, we let you on. We log you in as a guest, and you're free to use whatever we have available on the, anything you want, we can give you if you come to the library. Unfortunately, the pricing model for the way these databases works has to, it prevents us from extending significant access beyond current faculty, staff, and students. It's very unfortunate. But we do have, through the Alumni Association, a couple, I'm sorry about the flashing there. We have a couple of databases that are geared just towards alumni. One's called Academic Search Alumni Edition, and the other one is called Business Source Alumni Edition. These are databases geared towards, when you get out in the community and you're working and that sort of thing. They're a little bit more generalized than some of the resources we have on campus. Academic Search and Business Source are also through the EBSCO. I don't know how many of you were recent graduates or are recent, if you have kids that come here, but people generally like the EBSCO databases very much. Academic Search is sort of an all-purpose, multi-subject resource, whereas the Business Source Alumni Edition provides helpful industry and company information. You do have to join, as you can see by the annoying flashing thing at the bottom. The Alumni Association has an online community, and you need to join that to be able to access the databases. So, and those you can access from wherever. That's the key with these, is that once you join that online community, you can search these things to your heart's content at no cost, because it's freely available for the alums. Okay. Any questions? I'll get that flash off of there. I'm really sorry about that. I didn't see that when I went through this a few minutes ago. So, elsewhere in New York State, moving beyond what is available at UAlbany, let's look at tools New York State residents have available to them. So this could be if you're a donor who is not an alum, if you are an alum who lives in New York State, and anybody, friends and family that are in New York. Everybody can access these type of things. The first thing is, don't forget about your local SUNY or community college libraries. Most people live near a SUNY in New York State or a community college campus. Many of these campuses extend courtesy borrower status reciprocally to UAlbany alums and families. And usually, they do not have the off-campus remote access, but if you come into their library, they will help you, and they will provide you with their resources that they have available. You can also sometimes get a borrowing card through the library systems there that lets you borrow books. If they do not have a reciprocal agreement with SUNY Albany, they may have another type of process similar to our courtesy borrowing status that lets you borrow books from your SUNY or community college library. And if you have any questions, about a specific campus, you can. I'm going to put my email up at the end, and you can email me, and I'll track it down for you. I have a vast network of librarians that I can pester for information to find out the skinny on stuff like that. So another thing that may be obvious is, don't forget about your public library system. If you have a public library card, usually they'll give you what's known as a PIN. Around here in Albany, it's often the last 4 digits of your phone number. So you go to the public library's website, you put in your library card number, you put in your secret PIN, and they have you have like Consumer Reports and some of those kinds of sources that are more, they're still very useful, but they're more popular than, the type of thing that's like scholarly research or something like that. The other cool thing about public libraries is that if you find an abstract to a research report or a scholarly paper that was published in a journal, online, you found the abstract to it, but you want the full article, you can use your public library's interlibrary loan system to get the full article. Or if you see, I don't know, if you see one in a newspaper, something like that, you know, where they cite a research article that appeared in a peer-reviewed journal, you can often get it through the public library's interlibrary loan system. So I can't emphasize enough, you know, your tax dollars are paying for this. You use it, use it, use it. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, so if you find local campus access and public library resources are not sufficient, and you're a New York State resident, you're eligible to get a New York State Library borrower's card. The New York State Library is here in Albany. It is available to, like I said, all residents of New York State. They have primarily legal and medical and other scholarly resources. It is a research library, not a public library. They don't have any current fiction or Oprah's book list or anything like that, but they have, what they do have is an incredible number of databases, many of which are the scholarly databases we have at UAlbany, but New York State Library can make them available to New York State residents. So if you get this card, which you get through your driver's license number and some information, I'll put the link up in a minute. But you can see the array of topics here. We have everything from art to health to government to psychology, statistics, technology, education, right? Business, lots and lots and lots of options here. And they're all really good, really high quality resources for getting, you know, the research and the, you know, the really high quality articles that are out there and resources that can help you in whatever your pursuit is of information. So here's the link for applying for the New York State Library card. I know it's really long. What I would do is go to that first part, www.nysl.nysed.gov, and try to take it from there to find the page that allows you to apply for the library card. I should let you know too, I'm going to put these slides up on SlideShare, and I'm going to put the recording up on YouTube. So, and that will get mailed out to you. Both of those will get mailed out to you as participants today. So you will have all of this information to refer back to when we're done. Probably next week. Probably not right away, but next week we'll have that ready to go. So, anybody have any questions? Just check in a little bit here. Okay. So, moving along really fast because you guys don't have any questions. We're going to talk about the freebies now. Anybody can access, aside from, you know, these fee-based resources, there's so many more high-quality scholarly research and other you know, authoritative sources that are freely available on the World Wide Web. Sometimes they're not the first 10 things that come up in your Google search. That can be the tricky part. So I have some sources here. The first is research databases that often we make available on campus, but they also have free versions, and sometimes the functionality is not our favorite. So that's why we might use, you know, PubMed is sometimes called Medline. That's the first one on this list. And Medline has a bunch of different ways of searching it that some people find preferable to the PubMed interface. But the PubMed source is still good. It's still free. SumSearch is a medical database that only provides evidence-based medicine articles, citations to and abstracts to evidence-based medicine articles. ERIC is an educational clearinghouse. They have all kinds of, you know, social issue type things about dealing with education as well as curriculum and teaching materials. There used to be Thomas. I don't know if anybody is familiar with that. That used to be the federal legislative website, but now they've called it congress.gov. And science.gov is it's bringing together all the different science units in the federal government and making their information available through a single search portal, which is pretty cool. So those are all really helpful. Again, if you have any questions about how to search these tools and how to get the information you find in these, that you retrieve from these searches, please contact us at the library and we can help you navigate that whole process. So I wanted to touch for a minute on the concept of open access. The theory goes, if a researcher, a professor at a university or a scholar, gets a grant from the federal government, from, say, the National Institute of Health or the Department of Energy or something like that. So they got tax dollars in the form of a grant to do some research. If that's the case, when they publish that research, why the heck do we have to pay thousands of dollars for journals to access the results of that research? Shouldn't that information be free because we already paid for it through the grant process? Our tax dollars paid for it when it was allocated as the grant. So why are these journals making money off of, the fact that they're publishing it and they're limiting the access by the public doesn't have access unless they have access to a library that has the journal, and the journals are very expensive. The inflation rate for the cost of journals has increased crazy high above the rate of inflation. So anyway, I digress. There are a number of new resources that allow for what they call open access, and this is the ability for the public and citizen scientists and people who are interested to access scholarly research on the web without having to go through that gatekeeping process of the publishers that publish expensive peer-reviewed journals. So not everything is available open access, and one interesting thing that happened is the government is mandating that if you receive these grants from the government, that you will have to make your information open access, but they might not do it right away. So like you might make something available to the public a year after it's been published, something like that. So you wouldn't get the latest and greatest, but eventually it'll be made available. So, but in the meantime, there's a couple of resources. I've got Public Library of Science, which you actually see cited in a lot of newspaper articles now. There's a lot of really good research coming out of the Public Library of Science. The Directory of Open Access Journals is it's basically a list of all kinds of journals on all kinds of subject matter that are, published research. It's freely available to the public. It's peer-reviewed. It's high quality. You might want to look also at just some regular publishers. Off the top of my head, there are certain publishers that'll put up some articles for free because either the researcher has built some money into the grant that they can pay to the publisher to make it open access, or there's other means. I won't go into all that detail because you don't need to know it. It's very boring, but sometimes these publishers that charge high subscription rates for their journals will have some of their articles, limited number of articles, open access. So that's available. And then the latest thing that is really interesting is what we call institutional repositories. And we have a brand new one here at University of Albany. It's called Scholars Archive. You can get to it right from the front of the library website. What it does is Scholars Archive is a place for UAlbany researchers to store their research-related works. So this could be the final draft of a research article as it was corrected from peer review, but before it was published. So it's the thing that was submitted to the publisher. A lot of times they can put the full text of that final draft up on the institutional repository, and people can read it and have access to it. The content is exactly the same as what was published, maybe with some typos, because theoretically the publisher edits the typos out, but the content is there. They might also publish their data there, their backup data, and other information. Also, there are some multimedia things that are available, what they call primary source material, people being interviewed, things like that can be really interesting to look at. So Scholars Archive is an openly available website. You don't need any kind of login if you're just a member of the universe or the world. Anywhere in the world, if you go into Scholars Archive, you can access whatever the UAlbany scholars have put up to make open access, make available to the public. And lots of universities and colleges have these institutional repositories that provide similar information for their own scholars. So be on the lookout for that stuff, because it will be Googleable. That's a cumbersome way to say it, but they'll be searchable on the web. You can put in keywords and you'll be able to get this information from regular search engines, but you can also go to like the Cornell website and look at their repositories and see what is available. So I think this is a really great opportunity that we've never had before to get some really quality information in the hands of the general public. So does anybody have any questions about open access? What subject areas would anybody that that is a professor at UAlbany. Somebody asked what subject areas would Scholars Archive cover. So anybody who is a professor at UAlbany, whatever their discipline, can put their research, their publications into Scholars Archive. Whether or not they do is another story. We just got started, so we're doing outreach now to try to get people motivated and excited to put their stuff up on the archive and the repository. But we have space available for every single discipline. That's kind of how it's working right now. Any other questions? Okay, so you can probably see on the screen another cool thing that's coming about right now is open data. This is a sort of it's an interest near and dear to my personal. I'm really interested in the open data movement, and a lot of it comes from government, right? We have Open Data New York. I don't know if you guys have looked at this thing, but if you want insurance data, if you want to know what the restaurants in your city got on their health inspections, that is all available on Open Data New York. And it's in these little interactive data sets where you can filter out by your city, you can filter out by those that failed, you can click a lot of buttons and kind of manipulate the data to see what you're interested in looking at. Almost anything you could think of, from social services to health inspections, like I said, to motor vehicle accidents, the DMV stuff, anything you can think of that New York State might collect data on has a data set on this Open Data New York thing. And the federal government has one too. It's not as consistently easy to use as Open Data New York, but it used to just be like the main thing you could get for free from the federal government in terms of data. The main thing most people could get was census data, and there was other data that you could get in sort of periodical print literature, but now we have these data sets available for downloading from the web that are that you can manipulate, that you can do your own assessment on if you needed to, or you can just filter out what you want to see and just get a sense of some topic that you might be interested in. Like usually for for sort of people that have general interests. A lot of times it's health related, something like that. Um, so that's really cool. There's some other cool data tools out there. Amazon Web Services has public data sets. They have the genome sequence. They have some Nielsen ratings, some things like that. That's pretty interesting to look at in terms of what they have available. Google Trends, I don't know if anybody knows about this, but this is a really cool feature. It gives you like the top searches in Google, and it gives you, if there's a news event, they might give you like a little graph or a visualization of how that news event affected the search patterns on Google. It's a very interesting way to see sort of the zeitgeist of, what's happening in the world and where it's happening. Another cool one is Many Eyes, which is through IBM. Now, what they've done is they have an analytics software application on the web. So they have this thing that provides researchers the ability to analyze and make what they call visualizations, which is just a fancy word for charts and graphs of their research. But the cool thing about it is once those visualizations are finalized, they're available to the public. So all these researchers have made their data and their visualizations available for anybody to look at, and that's why they call it Many Eyes. I think it's really cool that that a proprietary company like IBM has gone to this what they call crowdsourcing model, where I put my data up, and if you want to use it, you can look at it, and you can manipulate it, and you can analyze it the way you want to. And you can, or you can borrow my charts and graphs and, just cite it and you have access to it. So it's really quite substantive and quite exciting to me personally that all this stuff is available. Which, maybe you don't use it as an idle, curious consumer, but if you were looking for certain types of research to do something more extensive, this stuff is available for free on the web, which is pretty cool. So I would be remiss as a librarian if I did not talk about free books. I don't know if you know about Google Books. They have the full text of many, many books on Google Books. And then there are some other ones where you can, if you search Google Books, you can get what they call snippets. So you can see a little passage, just enough to tell if the book has the relevant information you need. But then you have the information about the book. You know that it's going to be relevant. You've done a little bit of legwork. And then you can go to your library and either take it out of the library or request it by interlibrary loan. So that's pretty cool. There's an ebooks directory. The granddaddy of all of these is Project Gutenberg. They were the first people to recognize, I don't know if you guys know, Gutenberg was the guy that invented the printing press, which revolutionized, society in terms of, getting information out to the public. And the people who founded Project Gutenberg felt that the internet was like the next wave after the printing press that is going to revolutionize our ability to get information out to the public. So they started scanning and uploading all kinds of classic literature. Mostly this is classic literature, but all kinds of other books and materials are on it now. It's really cool. It's very extensive. It's not my favorite to search, but they were the first, and they're the granddaddy, and they're the the real visionaries in this ability to make print books available for free on the internet for anyone to read. Google Books has sort of taken it and run with it a little bit more. The other thing is WorldCat. I don't know if you know what that is. It's literally the worldwide catalog of library materials, so you can look up your book or search for books, sometimes journal titles, sometimes videos, things like that, and see what libraries they're held in. And now, this used to be a resource that only libraries had access to, but now we have worldcat.org that anybody can access. And you can also link it into your local, your local regional libraries so that you can see what's available to you, within driving distance or something like that. That's available to you as well. So, so I've just gone through a lot. Do you guys have questions about open access or open data or ebooks that are free? Any of this stuff? Okay, I will move along. So now we're going to talk about some other things. Google Scholar. I don't know if you've heard of this. Many students use it to get articles, or at least the abstracts to articles off of the web. The cool thing about Google Scholar, so Google Scholar is a subset of Google. It is only scholarly information. So what that actually means is peer-reviewed journal articles. It means conference proceedings. It means certain reports that are done by scholars for the government. It means master's and PhD theses that various universities have put up. It means things that you might find in those institutional repositories like Scholars Archive that I was mentioning before. This would be where you would search for something like that. Basically, just a whole panoply of resources that have intellectual merit and rigor and authority associated with them. So it's the good stuff. That's what I like to just sort of simplify it as. But a really cool feature of it is that you can link it to see if your local libraries have the material that say you've retrieved the abstract to an article that you think is really interesting, but the full article is not available on Google Scholar. What you can do is you can configure your Google Scholar so that your local library will show up on it if we have access to the material, if your library does. So what you would do is go to, you'd need a Google account. So you would need to, if you have Gmail or any of those things that are Google related, if you have any kind of Google login, you have a Google account. You would log in, you would go to Google Scholar, you would click on the settings button, and then you would get this page that looks like this, and you would click that library links over in the left. And then what you can do is search for your local library. So in this case, I did this from work, so University of Albany was already checked. Open WorldCat was already checked. I can't uncheck those because I'm on campus. But you can see I searched Syracuse, and then we have the SU links. I could theoretically check those boxes. I might not have access through SU links, but I would know that Syracuse University had the research that I needed, and I could go over there and ask somebody to help me obtain it. So that's kind of a cool feature of Google Scholar. Like I said, you will need to log into a Google account to be able to do that. But then every time you go into Google Scholar under that account, that will be configured for you. Any questions? If you need help, if you're interested in doing that and you need help doing it, I'm happy to talk anybody through that another, on another time. Just email me. I'll put my email up at the end. Now we're going to talk about some ways to search. I have it as Googling. I mainly use Google for my search engine. There are probably similar tips and tricks if you use Bing or any of the other search engines, but I think nowadays most people are still using Google, so that's what I've focused on here. And like I said, the idea is to help create a more precise search so that you get even more relevant, even more high quality, authoritative answers to your questions when you are using just your regular old Google or your Google Scholar. So I have force terms here. You can do a couple of things to make sure your search is more precise. The first thing I have is quotes. So if you I have child abuse in quotes and integrated services in quotes, that's going to search child abuse as a phrase in your websites and integrated services as a phrase in your websites. Both of those two exact phrases would have to be in the articles for them to come up. If that's not specific enough, you can do this thing called in title. And in that case, it doesn't have to be a phrase. Your keyword or your phrase would have to show up in the title of the document. And then in text, obviously, it naturally follows that term would have to be in the text of your document, in the full text or the abstract that's available to Google to be able to, where they can pull the words from, anywhere in the web page that they can pull the words from. So those are really cool. There's a whole bunch of these. I don't know if you know what a domain is. It's the type of website that you're looking at. So it's usually characterized by that .org, .com at the end of your web address. So what you can do is you can type in site:.org. The reason I say .org and .gov and .edu is that those tend to be more authoritative. .org is your nonprofits, so that includes your think tanks, your research bodies, your advocacy organizations. .gov is government, obviously. .edu is educational, which means university websites, certain institutes at educational facilities, all that kind of stuff. So there's lots of information besides your .coms out there. And so if you put your search terms in and then you limit your site to only government websites or only nonprofit websites, you can sort of craft a little bit more of a search strategy. I see Yvonne has asked, what does full text at my library refer to? That's because I'm on campus. We have it linked into our paid resources. That's what Google will do. You can get those settings and get the information. So while I'm on campus, I can get the full text at my library. But what you would get from off campus, you would just get the information that was available at the library, and then you could come get it or request it. You would know that it would be there. It would sort of save you a step, so that you'd know right away whether or not we had it, rather than finding something that looked good and then having to take that extra step of tracking down who has the journal or who has the resource. I hope that answers your question. Let me make sure there's no, oop. Okay, just making sure there's no other questions. Another thing you can do in terms of, site.: is you can limit to a specific website. Now this is really handy for, I don't know if you guys ever run into these websites that are just sort of crazy hard to navigate. We all run into these here and there. So you can, say you can't find where something is on the university library's website. You can search your search terms of what you're looking for and then do site::com albany.edu, and it will only search the University at Albany website for your terms. So that's a really cool feature. I like it for government websites because those tend to be really tricky to navigate, really kind of a pain in the neck, to be honest with you. Likewise, you can limit by file type. Let me try to get this going here. Oh, there we go. Limit by file type. So file type is the type of document. So if you want PDFs, right, slideshows with PowerPoint slides, or spreadsheets, or CSV files, or Microsoft Word documents, anything that has that extension, you can do file type: PDF, as my example shows, with your search terms. So now I have the note here on the slide. You do want to make sure that if you're looking at the site: limiter, you do want to put .gov, .org, .com, etc. But for file type, for whatever reason, even though the files have that .pdf at the end, you just put PDF. You don't put any dot. And I guess that's their way of distinguishing, the difference between the searches. But file type is really cool. That's a great way to limit to the freebie full text information that is available on Google Scholar as well as Google itself. I do this one all the time when I'm looking for advocacy materials on, I'm a social sciences librarian, so I look for advocacy materials on, child welfare or something like that, and I hit, file type :PDF and my search term child welfare, and then I get, these policy documents or the annual report of the, the Children's Defense Fund, something like that. So there's lots of really great stuff that you can get the full information for by limiting to file type. And then in Google Scholar, you can limit by year. Sometimes you are getting too many old things and you want recent things, or maybe you want to go back and see that thing from, that you remember from 10 years ago that was published on your topic. Just bear in mind that Google information is less reliable before about 1996. That's when Google started to take off and become widely adopted, and people were finding the materials. And the internet, sort of in general, I don't know if you all remember, when the internet was just sort of bubbling up in the 90s. But because of that, most of the information that was put up was new stuff. They didn't, some places are going now and going back and putting old stuff back up so that you can access it. But really, before the mid-90s, the coverage is spotty for what, complete information is spotty before 1996 or so. What is included in case law? Well, there is a lot of free legal materials that are available out there. The tricky part with the case law stuff is you don't always know if it's the last and latest and greatest. That's the tricky part. That's why we would usually say use a proprietary legal database. But there's a resource called FindLaw. There's some other ones that are out there that have full text of case law, but it might be an outdated case, or it might be an overturned case, something like that. And that will not be information that it might not be obvious from what you turn up in the case law results. So, but it is your basic, a lot of people put up, case results for various and sundry reasons on the web for people to access. It's catch as catch can. It's not necessarily very systematic. That's what I'm trying to say. This other cool thing that I use all the time is Control F. I don't know if you guys know that trick. In my case, it shows up at the top of my search results, but or my document. But if you use Firefox, it shows up at the very bottom of your web page, your browser page. Control F gives you a little search box that searches the web page that you're currently looking at. In this case, I did it with Google Scholar results, but you can pull up a PDF and you can hit Control F and then search for your terms. Like, say you have a document and you just want the part, maybe it's a big government document about all different kinds of social services programs. Again, I'm using social service example because that's my sort of bailiwick. But you just want the information on supplemental nutrition program. So you can put that you can hit Control F and you can put that term in there, and then you can sort of click through to where that term shows up, and you can see they're highlighted in yellow, so you can see what, you get like a snippet that shows you what content is in your web page or your PDF or whatever type of document you've pulled up on the web that you're trying to, you're trying to sift through to the good part. So I think that's really cool. There are other Googling tricks. I have this long web address, but if you just type into a search engine, get more out of Google in quotes, you'll find a really neat infographic that provides a lot of information on more than I've covered. I've just given you a taste of some of the ways you can narrow your search and get a little bit more precise results from your searches in regular search engines. So if you have questions just in general, please ask us. There is like I said, 24 hours, 7 days a week. We have instant message reference on our Ask Us page. I also would point out that we have social media now. We have Twitter accounts. If you follow Twitter, that would have helpful tips and sometimes things of interest that might pique your curiosity about something or keep you up to date on what we're doing here at the libraries. We have one for the main library, that's UAlbany at UAlbany Libs, and where I'm based at Dewey, we have UAlbany Dewey Lib. And we also have a Facebook and a Pinterest that are available. I think they're pretty easy to find, so I didn't put up the URLs for those. But if you're curious and you can't find them, please email me, and I'll dig up that for you. This is me, Elaine Lasda Bergman. There's my email. If you have any questions, we really appreciate all you do for us, and I was really happy to be able to offer this webinar to you guys. If you liked it, please provide feedback to the Dean's office and let them know. If good or bad, actually, I mean, I have a thick skin. I can, I'd like to know if you thought there was a way it could be improved or something like that. So, does anybody have any final questions? Oh, here we go. Tom mentions that the New York Times has access to their older articles back to the 1850s, but you can only see the search results for free. Right. Great reference for recent history. That is definitely true. I didn't focus on newspapers and things like that because we were really looking at the kind of scholarly research. Newspapers are more popular, but there's more and more great, useful stuff out there. And the other point is your public library might be able to access those actual articles from the New York Times once you've found it on the web page of the New York Times, just the result. Does anybody else have any final thoughts? Okay, well, like I said, here's my email address. Please feel free to contact me. Please let the dean, let Mary Kesserly know what you felt about this, if we should do it again or if we should do something slightly different. Let's see. If you are not a New York State resident and don't have an ID card, how do you prove you're an alumnus? Well, you still have to come to the library in person. You can bring your driver's license in person to the library. If you're talking about how do you prove you're an alumnus for those EBSCO databases, the alumni editions of Business Source and academic, what's the other one? I forget what it's called, but those two alumni databases, you're already in the Alumni Association by virtue of the fact of being an alumnus, and they have a record on you, and you just have to join the online community, which if you go to the Alumni Association webpage use that site:/albany.edu and do Alumni Association as your keywords, and you'll get there. That will get you the access to the online databases. For access to stuff in person, they would take an out-of-state driver's license because, like I said, they would have record of you as an alumnus. They just got to confirm that you are who you say you are. So all the thank yous coming in, I really appreciate the thank yous. If anybody has any questions after this, you get back into your day-to-day lives and you're like, I know Elaine said something about that topic. Please feel free to shoot me an email, shoot the dean an email. We're happy to help you out in any way that we can. Okay, I'm going to stop recording and I'm going to turn this off. And thank you again and have a great night.